like we are NATO's fiddle right now. The ultimate wag the dog moment. We'll have more on that in a moment. But first, something happened in November and December of last year that almost no one paid attention to. And you'd be forgiven. It was right around the holidays. And, we were dealing with COVID and people were dealing with, all sorts of family stuff. So they weren't paying attention to what you see on your screen right here, which was Operation Polaris 21. NATO forces from Greece, Italy, Spain, the United Kingdom, and the United States launched maritime exercises, including combat aircraft, surface-to-air defenses, and it lasted for weeks. It was a big show of force, and it was all meant to test certain things. They then, almost exactly at the very same date as Polaris was winding down at the beginning of December 2021, you had this, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky announcing the intent to retake Crimea. And then, of course, it starts moving forces to start doing that. Seems really strange. It seems like it's coordinated, right? I mean, if you're a conspiracy theorist, you'd say, wow, how does that happen? NATO runs all of these big exercises, and then all of a sudden Zelensky wants to move troops towards Crimea.
Not all of a sudden. Earlier in that year, he had ordered drone strikes on Crimea, according to certain NATO experts.
Even as early as August of that year, he was already talking about it. But this is when forces started to move right around the time of this NATO exercise.
Well, all of a sudden, I guess, in terms of like internet collective consciousness. But not so all of a sudden.
So NATO and Ukraine, they were suddenly, I guess, hoping to get a rise out of Putin. It was all planned. They had all lined this out ahead of time, apparently. Well, it worked. Because then, of course, move NATO-backed forces right up to Putin's doorstep and think that he's not going to do anything about it. Well, of course, that's not what happened. In fact, Putin warned of this as a violation of the Minsk agreements and said he didn't want war. A few weeks later, he said, please remove your weapons. You United States and European forces, please remove your weapons from our doorstep, including NATO weapons, and then we can walk away in peace. Here's what he said.
Поэтому мы хотим решить этот вопрос сейчас. Вот прямо сейчас, в ближайшее время, в ходе переговорного процесса. Мы готовы к этой совместной работе и дальше. По поводу, хотим мы этого или нет. Конечно, нет. Именно поэтому мы и выдвинули предложение о переговорном процессе, результатом которого должна быть договоренность об обеспечении равной безопасности всех, включая нашу.
So, peace. Get your stuff off my back porch, basically, please, because we don't want this. And members of his parliament were already pushing for it, and he didn't want it. So around this time, journalists then discovered some secretive documents related to Polaris 21 operation. These secretive documents showed the advanced preparation of NATO to enter into an armed conflict with Russian Federation in the event of Russia's intervention in Ukraine. That's what these documents showed, associated with Polaris 21. NATO had created the template, basically, for getting Russia into a war with Ukraine. It was all here in these documents. And we were seeing it playing out with jet aircraft and air defense systems being moved around. All of it was right there. It worked. Mission accomplished, by the way. But at the same time as these tensions were simmering, the U.S. and NATO were actively working to give us a new hero and remaking. There's Ben Stiller showing up to meet his hero and tell him, you are my hero. A hero in a green T-shirt that came right out of public relations playbook, all part of the propaganda plan. A propaganda plan that goes back to the very First World War. You can read right from this playbook. Now, according to Politico, both the United States and British embassies at the time took on the media outreach from the United States and British embassies and PR companies in both America and the United Kingdom, we later learned, according to Politico.